Hi everyone, my name is Virginia Robbins and I am your breastfeeding guru. I'm back with a video on why should I breastfeed, what are the benefits, and also I will discuss some of the reasons why people do not breastfeed based on the research and from moms that I've worked with, and maybe address some of those issues. We've learned a lot through our life's experience and our exposure about parenting, about becoming mothers. We all have ideas that have kind of become a part of us. That doesn't mean that they're true. And that's one of the things that we need to become aware of, like I was speaking in the last video. In our culture, we will have seen more babies being bottle fed, which to us is normal. We've seen babies carried around in their buckets, their car seats. You see everyone lugging these giant plastic things everywhere, and that's normal. We see babies in cribs in separate rooms, and this is normal. There's a lot of scare tactics and fear regarding sleeping with baby and suffocation. So baby in the bed is not normal. Baby in another room is. We see swaddled babies in the hospital. They're born, they're immediately swaddled up. And this is normal. We have programs like Teach Your Infant to Read and, potty trained in a day. And all of this is normal for us in our culture. But this is not normal for babies. It's not normal for humans. And it is not good for babies or humans. And I'm going to tell you that in the beginning of this video, I'm going to tell you my personal opinion on why I believe breastfeeding is best, or what I feel the biggest benefit is. And then I'm going to go into the research, some of the big ones. I'm not going to bore you to death. I'm just going to give you the big ones. Like, these are the ones that the studies have shown conclusively are benefits of breastfeeding or risk of formula feeding. And then I'm going to get down to just the down-to-earth facts of why breastfeeding is better. So, my opinion is that because our culture is so biased in ways that are negative for breastfeeding, you don't see commercials about breastfeeding. You see commercials about formula feeding and this formula that does it H, Y, or Z. And this is what you're exposed to from the time you start watching television. You see ads and billboards. And so these are the things we're conditioned into. The biggest benefit of breastfeeding is that it gives you a leg up against all of these things we're conditioned to do by our society. Because as soon as you put the baby to the breast, a whole cocktail of hormones, bonding, nutrition, life-saving contractions of the uterus, all of this starts to work immediately. And moms become normally attached to their infants. What this means is that when someone comes into your room to take your baby to the nursery so that you can rest, your instincts immediately tell you, no. My baby needs to be with me. This doesn't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. When it's time to move the baby to their own bed, your instincts tell you, I can't hear my baby breathe. I can't feel their warm skin against mine. What if they wake up and I don't hear? All of these things start becoming instinctive for mothers who breastfeed. It's even been shown in studies that if you do take a breastfeeding baby away from its mother, put it in another room, or have someone else take care of the baby, or in the nursery, that the breastfeeding mother actually sleeps worse. Because nature tells us that our babies are supposed to be with us. So now I'm going to talk about the research, and I'm not going to linger very long on this. There are many places that you can look at all of the research for why you should breastfeed your baby or why formula is more dangerous. I'm just going to kind of touch on what I feel are the most important things for you to know when making the decision, the ones that are the largest studies that are the most relevant. An interesting paper that the American Academy of Pediatrics put out is that if every mother in America, United States of America, were to breastfeed for the first 6 months, that it would save around 911 babies' lives and would save approximately $13 billion for our country in healthcare costs. I love the money savings. You obviously realize our government's in trouble and we could use that money right now. But 911 babies die every year in America because they are formula fed and for no other reason. So when we make a decision about feeding our children, most of the time we think they'll be healthier because we breastfeed them, or they'll be smarter. We've seen those studies. But most of us don't think that it could potentially be what saves your child's life. That's pretty deep. The biggest thing that we do as mothers is protect our child's life. That's primary. So that's the biggest for me. That hits home the most for me. And I don't bring this study up to guilt anyone. If you've made any decisions in the past to formula feed, it's no indication of you as a mother. A lot of times we don't have support or we don't have information. And we do the best with what we have and what we know at the time. So I just want anyone who's listening to not feel attacked or to feel undervalued as a mother if you made a different decision. But as we move on into the other research, we know that babies have less hospitalizations who are breastfed. The formula-fed baby can be hospitalized anywhere from 2 to 3 times a year in the first year of their life. And most of this has to do with pneumonia. If a baby is formula-fed, they're 16.7 times as likely to get pneumonia as a breastfed baby. And pneumonia can be life-threatening. So that's a big one. Formula-fed babies are more likely to have asthma. In fact, they're about 50% more likely to have asthma. They're 40% more likely to become obese. They're more likely to have diabetes, childhood cancers. And then there's lots and lots of other studies. So as you can see, there are some huge benefits health-wise and research-wise for breastfeeding. Of course, mothers benefit from breastfeeding also. We have a decreased risk of developing diabetes, breast cancer, uterine and cervical cancer. A new study shows we have a decreased risk of having heart disease. Or if you were to look at this from nature's point of view, breastfeeding is the standard, is the norm for humans. So formula feeding actually increases these risks, increases the risk of cancer, increases the risk of diabetes, increases the risk of heart disease, increases the risk of osteoporosis. So there's lots and lots of studies, and do look at them if you're interested in this aspect. One other benefit of breastfeeding is that it decreases the risk of SIDS. Babies who are breastfed have a 200 to 300% lower risk of SIDS than babies who are formula fed, or you can say it the other way. Formula fed babies have a 200 to 300% increased risk of SIDS compared to breastfed babies. Those are really big numbers, and I will go into that in another video on sleep. But breastfed babies wake because their stomach empties. It helps protect them from sleeping too deep, where babies are more at risk for SIDS. Also, breastfed babies that co-sleep tend to have lower risk of SIDS when they co-sleep in a safe environment. If you're considering co-sleeping, you do need a good bit of information, but it is safe for breastfeeding mothers in general if you follow the current guidelines. So now talking about not only the research and what's a benefit there, but what are the just day-to-day benefits of breastfeeding? Why should I breastfeed? I've heard it's difficult, etc. It is cost effective. It is cheap. It saves huge amounts of money. One way it saves money is because formula is expensive. It's about $1,800 to $3,000 a year for the first year. That's a lot of money. And that's not including, bottles and nipples and cleaning products and sterilizers and warmers and all of the other accessories that come into play when you bottle feed. Also, because babies are more likely to become ill, there's a decreased earning for families who have formula-fed babies in the aspect of having to take off work to care for a sick child. If you think about a formula-fed baby being much more likely to be hospitalized, then that can be some dramatic time off from work. And just basic, if a child is sick, there's thermometers and there's Tylenol and there's saline and there's humidifiers, and all of this adds up, and it's hard for most of us to make a living right now. So that is financially, obviously, breast is going to win out. I will have another guide on the frugal breastfeeding pregnant mother and what do you really need to bring baby home and to care for them while you're breastfeeding. And I'm hoping that that will be a help to you also. Another thing that is just a practical aspect of breastfeeding is that breastfeeding mothers tend to be, statistically based on studies, more confident and more secure in their role as mother, more bonded to their infant, less stressed. It's hard to be a mother. It's hard to bring a baby into this world and know that you are solely in charge of caring for this child and making sure that they grow up to be a good human being and they get what they need, and you're going to juggle all kinds of things. The risk of postpartum depression in our culture right now is between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 women develop postpartum depression in the first year. That doesn't mean they all seek treatment, but those are the statistics. That's very, very high. So when you look at breastfeeding from a practical standpoint of something that helps reduce stress, high stress levels increase the risk of depression. I think you got it. So moving along to the last aspect, and that is if you're still on the fence, I'm going to address some of the reasons why women who were polled chose not to breastfeed. Now, we're not talking about women who tried to breastfeed but had issues, but women who ahead of time have said, no, I do not want to breastfeed. And we're going to look at those reasons and see if they're valid or if they're misinformation. One of the biggest myths regarding breastfeeding is that it will ruin my breasts. They'll become saggy and like my mom's, or, you've heard it all, I'm sure. I don't know whether to say unfortunately or fortunately. This is not true. However, if you are genetically predisposed to having saggy breasts or stretched out tissue, then it happens due to the pregnancy. The hormonal changes that occur to your breast and that impact this particular issue that women speak of are because of the pregnancy. So once you've gone through the pregnancy, there There's nothing that will save you from that genetic fact, if it is one for you. So don't let that affect your reason for breastfeeding, because breastfeeding, most women find they enjoy the larger breasts, or their partners do anyway. Moving on, it's hard. Formula is easier. To some extent, this is true. In the beginning, if you have a sleepy baby or issues, breastfeeding can be difficult. That's why I'm here. That's why I've started this series, is because I want you to have the best chance at succeeding in breastfeeding. And that starts right here while you're pregnant. In the long run, breastfeeding is dramatically easier because there's no formula to mix, nothing to warm, nothing to pack. It's right there. It's on tap. It's the right temperature. It's the right amount. It's perfect for my baby. I can run out the door. If I have a diaper, I'm ready to go. If you formula feed, that obviously isn't true. Baby will be too attached. I can't do anything or go anywhere. Some babies are needier. This doesn't change because they're breastfed or formula fed in a beneficial way for formula fed babies. If anything, they have a harder time. They have a harder time become securely attached. And we think one of the reasons that babies have a harder time become attached to their mothers or care providers that are formula fed is because they miss a lot of the skin to skin. And more research is showing us that a huge portion of the benefits of breastfeeding are not just the obvious, the nutrition and being loved and being cuddled and all of that. It's the actual skin to skin. It helps with psychological development of the child. Breastfed babies tend to become more independent because they are securely attached. Babies who feel cared for, have their needs met, trust their parents, are more secure. Moms become asexual. That is one of the most confusing aspects that I found about why mothers choose not to breastfeed. They feel that they lose their sexiness or become an instrument of childcare rather than a woman. And there was lots of other ways that this was put. This is another issue of our culture. Obviously, childbearing is one of the most sexual things that we do. It shows our fertility. It, in essence, is a big aspect of being a woman. So this, again, is just media perpetuated issues. So, giving you the roundup, the benefits of breastfeeding, according to Virginia, the biggest one is that it helps just get you started off on the right foot with your mothering relationship with the child, based on what is intuitive knowledge rather than what is obtained knowledge in our culture, which I do not feel is a good indicator of what children need or what is a good way of parenting. Then we went over all of the research. Basically, healthier children, more likely to survive, more likely to be healthy as adults, healthier mom, less likely to have cancer, diabetes, etc. And then practical matters of it's cost effective, it's easier once it's established, and moms are more confident in their role as mothers. Well, I could go on and on about the benefits of breastfeeding. Obviously, I'm passionate about it, but hopefully this gives you a little more to think about than a list of research. So it, again, has been my pleasure to spend this time with you. And I hope that you let me know if there's anything that I can do for you. If there is a topic in particular that you'd like me to speak on that you haven't heard me list that I will be speaking on, then just send me a message. All right, peace.